At the banquet, I was about to announce my relationship with my childhood sweetheart when I suddenly saw a barrage of comments. No, the scumbag is already with the fake heiress, just waiting for you to announce it so he can humiliate you on the spot. You'll become the laughingstock of the entire capital's elite, and your family will abandon you to support the fake heiress instead. Watching my childhood sweetheart and the fake heiress exchange glances across the crowd, I couldn't help but tremble. At the same moment, I felt a scorching gaze from the crowd. That was my arch-nemesis, the one I regarded as a lifelong rival, and also the most powerful and influential crown prince in the entire capital. The barrage of comments appeared again. Choose him. Though he may be a bit sharp-tongued, he truly cares for you. He will die next spring to save you. When I walked down the stairs in my formal attire, all eyes in the grand hall turned toward me. Truly the biological daughter of the Shen family, her looks and demeanor are truly outstanding, and she's also talented in many ways. I always said that Shen Yaoyao from before didn't look like she was born to Mrs. Shen at all. She had such a petty air about her. Haha, Miss Shen really outshone all the noble ladies today. From now on, suitors will surely be flocking to her doorstep. Shen Yaoyao was standing beside me, her nails almost digging into my skin with resentment. She suppressed the hatred in her heart and said, "Sister, don't forget to announce your relationship with Brother Chutong later. He's been looking forward to this day for a long time. Although his family is a bit poor, he's your childhood sweetheart. You can't forget your roots just because you've become successful." I looked at Chutong in the distance, his face full of impatience. For some reason, he started giving me the cold shoulder a month ago. I tried to win him back. He accepted all the gifts I gave him, but he still disappeared and wouldn't reply to my messages. There were even a few times when I went to his house to look for him, only to find out he hadn't been back for several nights. Yao, Chutong hasn't paid any attention to me for a long time. I think it's safe to assume we've broken up. How could this be? Shen Yaoyao's voice suddenly rose an octave. Brother Chutong just feels neglected by you since you returned home, and it hurts him. If you give him enough sense of security, he won't act like this. Listen to me. Today, you should confess your feelings publicly, cut off contact with other men, and declare to the family elders that you will marry no one but him. Brother Chutong will surely be deeply moved and reconcile with you. I looked at Shen Yaoyao's resolute gaze, my brows slightly furrowed. Just then, my parents, beaming with joy, waved me over to introduce me to the wealthy young men of my age in their social circle. Suddenly, Shen Yaoyao grabbed hold of me. She exclaimed loudly, "Sister, didn't you have something to announce to the family elders earlier? Now's the perfect chance to speak up. Brother Chutong, come over quickly. Sister has something to say to you." Caught off guard, I was shoved forward by her, and the crowd gradually quieted down. Mom paused for a moment, then smiled and said, "What does our Wanwan have to tell everyone?" Shen Yaoyao immediately chimed in, "Mom, Sister is about to announce a decision regarding her lifelong matters. I think we should all respect and offer our blessings. Brother Chutong, come over quickly." Chutong sneered disdainfully, deliberately putting on airs in front of everyone. "Just because Shen Tingwan calls me, I should go over. Who does she think she is? She's just got a bit of money, that's all. I wouldn't even want it if it were handed to me for free. Don't pull that princess act with me." I had just opened my mouth when, in the next second, I suddenly saw the barrage. "No, the scumbag is already with the fake heiress, just waiting for you to make the announcement so he can humiliate you on the spot. You'll become the laughingstock of the entire Beijing social circle, and your family will abandon you to support the fake heiress instead." I froze, instinctively looking at Chutong. At that moment, he was gazing at Shen Yaoyao, his eyes overflowing with tenderness. We've been together for so long. How could I not recognize that this is the way he looks at someone he loves? At the same time, I felt a scorching gaze from the crowd. That was my arch-nemesis, the most powerful and influential young master in the entire capital circle. He was surrounded by a group of rich second-generation heirs, holding a wine glass in a carefree manner, yet his gaze remained fixed on me. Deep and inscrutable, the barrage of comments appeared once more. "Choose him. Though he may be sharp-tongued, he truly cares for you. He will die next spring, trying to save you." At the moment, whispers of onlookers rose around us, and my parents' expressions changed. "Wanwan, do you mean you want to confess to Chu?" "No, Mom." I lifted my head and walked step by step toward the man I had once desperately avoided. "The person I want to confess to is him." The entire room erupted in an uproar. Shen Yaoyao's expression froze. And Chu Tong could no longer maintain his arrogant demeanor, instantly growing furious. The air fell silent for a second before erupting into fervent discussions. Oh my God, is Miss Shen crazy? How dare she provoke that person in public? Although the Shen family is also wealthy, they're not even in the same league as the Yen family, especially considering what kind of person young Master Yen is. He's always kept his distance from women and is notoriously ruthless. Miss Shen is about to offend him, Amit Ba. I was just thinking how fortunate Mr. and Mrs. Shen were, but now they can only pray for their own luck. The young man silently watched me, his breathing somewhat labored. My parents' faces turned even paler, and they hurried over to pull me away. I'm sorry, Xuanji, our Wan Wan is young and doesn't understand things. She offended you, and we, as her parents, apologize on her behalf. Wan Wan, hurry up and leave. You need to understand that the Yen family is not someone we can aspire to. Fine, a very clear and clean voice, facing my parents' shocked gazes. This second-generation heir who had always been unrestrained revealed a charming smile. Uncle and auntie, there's no need to be so polite. Perhaps in the future, Ting Wan and I will be family. His smile was eerie, and I seriously doubted whether the bullet comments had gotten it wrong. Maybe he had come up with some new bad idea to mess with me. After all, from the day I was recognized and brought back home, even though I did nothing, he seemed to have it out for me. He would speak up to provoke me regardless of the occasion, and even at meals, he liked to snatch the food right in front of me. Even when it came to clothes, he would wear the same style as me. Then casually remark, I still look better. The barrage of comments exploded instantly. Holy shit, what's going on? The male supporting character is at the table. This is his first time falling in love. He may look calm on the surface, but his heart is already racing off the charts. It's perfectly normal for an innocent young man to be a bit awkward, hoping our girl will guide him through his first love. This banquet was undoubtedly the liveliest event in the capital's social circle in the past decade. The family elders were originally discussing crisis response strategies, even prepared to sacrifice me if necessary. But seeing the current situation, everyone turned from shock to joy, and even my great-uncle on my mother's side laughed heartily with overwhelming delight. My parents still couldn't believe it. Xuanji, you and Wan Wan, are you telling the truth? Of course, uncle and aunt. Yan Xuanji lowered his eyes to look at me. Matters of a lifetime are not something to be taken lightly. His eyes curved into a smile, like countless clear and beautiful skies. Only then did my parents let out a sigh of relief. But the two people over there couldn't stand still, feeling as if needles were pricking their backs. Shen Yao Yao was the first to angrily confront me. Sis, are you mistaken? Weren't you already with brother Chu Tong? Wasn't he the one you said you were going to confess to? She was afraid others wouldn't understand, so she emphasized, how can you just break off so many years of feelings with brother Chu Tong? Sis, I believe you're definitely not the kind of person who would two-time. You must be joking right now, right? I smiled, my voice neither too loud nor too soft, tinged with a hint of a sigh. Yao Yao, when did Chu Tong and I ever get together? What are you talking about? It's also thanks to Chu Tong never wanting to publicly announce our relationship that we don't have a single photo together. Not only does he avoid any suspicion in front of others, but he's not even willing to hold my hand in private. Can this really be considered a relationship? I must have been out of my mind to agree to his confession back then. But, enough, Shen Yao Yao, what are you doing? Can't you stand to see your sister doing well? Or, Dad's face darkened, a storm raging in his eyes. You think our Shen family has wronged you, and you're deliberately trying to tarnish our reputation on this occasion. My parents value the family's reputation above all else. If their own daughter made a mistake, they could even abandon her, let alone an adopted daughter who framed me. No, Dad, the more anxious Shen Yao Yao became, the less clearly she could explain. Seeing that she was about to become the target of public criticism, she simply closed her eyes and fainted straight away. And when Chu Tong saw his beloved faint, he immediately flew into a rage, rushing up to me and shouting angrily, Shen Tingwan, are you satisfied now that you've driven Yao Yao to this state? How can your heart be so malicious, you deceitful wretch? Before he could finish his words, his face was already struck by a fist, instantly swelling to a great height. Chu Tong widened his eyes in disbelief, frozen in place as if a pause button had been pressed. You actually dare to hit me? Yan Xuanji shook his wrist, his voice carrying a chilling coldness. Someone with such a foul mouth deserves to be taught a lesson. Guards, drag him away and give him a good beating. The crowd in the hall fell silent, as a team of bodyguards from the Yen family hurried over. Yes, young master, Chu Tong shouted loudly and struggled with all his might, but it was to no avail. He didn't know that here, offending Yen Xuanji was equivalent to being sentenced to death. The hall quickly fell silent. The Yen family's bodyguards thoughtfully gagged Chu Tong, preventing him from making a single sound. I have no relationship with Chu Tong. When it comes to being a person and doing things, you have to stick to one path until the end. At this moment, my mind has already come up with 100 ways to defend myself. No need to explain. I believe you. He looked at me with a gentle smile, casually tucking the stray hair behind my ear. I, Yen Xuanji, only believe what I choose to believe. The banquet ended hastily. As soon as I got home, I took a bath and closed my eyes, trying to process everything that had happened today. After spending so much time together, someone as cunning as a fox like Yen Xuanji should know whose words were true today. He also knows that I am far from the innocent and delicate little white flower I appear to be. In truth, even without the barrage of comments, I wouldn't have confessed to Chu Tong today. But confessing to Yen Xuanji was truly an unexpected move. At that moment, the bullet comments appeared again. Shen Yaoyao and Chu Tong won't give up easily. They will start a fire to disfigure you. Shen Yaoyao will also cause you to be humiliated and lose your innocence. When that happens, everyone will abandon you, and you will eventually go mad. No, what does chastity even matter? I would never go mad over something like that, I said coldly. There is only one possibility. Someone wants me to become a madwoman, and as for who that someone is, it is naturally my seemingly loving family. The Shen family needs a daughter who can bring glory to the family, not one who brings disgrace. As I dried my hair and walked out of the bedroom, the sound of Shen Yaoyao's weeping as she knelt in the study was echoing through the house. Mom, Dad, I was truly innocent in what happened today. It was actually my sister who came to me last night saying she wanted to confess her feelings to Chu Tong and asked me to help brainstorm ideas. Woo, how could I have known she would back out at the last moment and then shift all the blame onto me? Mom and Dad have been so good to me. How could I ever be so ungrateful? What benefit would betraying the Shen family bring me? Also, there's something I'm not sure if I should mention. My sister and Chu Tong have been together for many years. And it's highly likely they've already slept together. Would a family like the Yen family accept someone like that? Mom, Dad, you should be extra careful too. Shen Yaoyao cried in hiccups. Her little face flushed red, truly a sight that tugged at the heartstrings. My parents sat on the chairs frowning and silent, with my mother being the first to speak. Old Shen, I've raised Yaoyao since she was a child. She's not as scheming as the other one. Whatever she thinks shows on her face. This matter was probably just her being set up. My heart skipped a beat. The scheming one, was she talking about me? My breath stung, and then I heard Dad's muffled voice. You're right, Tingwan has always resented Yaoyao for taking her place all these years, and she's been trying to get rid of her by any means necessary. Fortunately, today's incident didn't lead to a major disaster. Instead, it even helped us get closer to the Yen family. However, I still need to observe and understand Yen Xuanji further. I don't know when he and Tingwan got together. If possible, I'd still prefer Yaoyao to marry him. After all, Shen Tingwan hasn't been with us all these years, and none of us can figure out what's on her mind. How ridiculous. I couldn't help but sigh. It turns out that even parents as cold-hearted and ungrateful as mine could harbor such deep affection for the daughter they raised from childhood. After a long while, I knocked on the door. Dad, Mom, it immediately quieted down inside. Come in. I opened the door, and my parents immediately put on that hypocritical expression to take my hand. Wan, you must have been frightened this morning. Why aren't you resting properly in your room? Are you tired? Not tired. Thank you for your concern. Mom and Dad, I glanced at Shen Yaoyao on the floor, feigning surprise. Oh my, didn't my sister just faint? How can she still be kneeling here? Shouldn't we rush her to the hospital right away? Shen Yaoyao glared at me with venom, turning her face away without saying a word. I became even more enthusiastic, trying to drag her up. No, I must take my sister to the hospital today. Fainting in public is no small matter. It could be a sign of sudden death, if we don't send her. Others might think the Shen family mistreats their adopted daughter. I pulled and tugged at Shen Yaoyao, and she screamed for Mom and Dad to save her. Enough, a great force struck, and I was violently flipped over and pushed hard. Father looked at me with uncontrollable rage. his voice sharp and stern. Let today's matter end here. From now on, anyone who dares to mention it again, I will smash her mouth. His glare was clearly directed at me, as he angrily flicked his sleeve and stormed out. Slamming the door behind him, Mother also sighed as she helped Shen Yaoyao up, unable to help but mutter a complaint as they left the room. All these years, she's been at odds with Yaoyao everywhere. I don't know if she resents your father and me. What a sin. After they left, I slowly got up from the floor, not feeling disheartened by it. Having been adrift outside for over a decade, I had long lost much affection for this family, since everyone is prioritizing their own interests. Let's just make good use of each other. That evening, Yan Xuanji held a gathering with friends to introduce me to his brothers. As I went downstairs, I happened to see a convertible parked there. A young man was tilting his head to look at the roses by the roadside, his fingers resting on the car window. His profile was strikingly handsome. Yan Xuanji heard the commotion, turned his head, and smiled at me. I've come to pick you up, whether before we were together or now. He has always treated me with affection and respect, never overstepping boundaries. The most intimate gesture he ever made was simply giving me a gentle hug. At gatherings, he doesn't even drink anymore, quietly peeling shrimp and crab for me the whole time. Gotta say, this guy really knows how to take care of people, not the spoiled rich kid type. Yan Shao is way too protective of his little girlfriend. Aren't you two going to kiss? Once someone started teasing, everyone instantly got hyped up, shouting for us to kiss in front of everyone. This is our brother Yan's first kiss. Ha 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 ha. Don't give me that. Yan Xuanji cursed, his ears inexplicably turning red. If we're going to kiss, it'll be in private, secretly. His brothers all slammed the table and screamed at the top of their lungs. Yan Xuanji's attempt to stop me was in vain, so he could only come over and cover my ears. At such close proximity, our eyes met, and I could smell the pleasant woody fragrance of his cologne. I could also see the tremor in his eyes. Don't be afraid, I won't force you. He mouthed the words to me. For some reason, at that moment, I suddenly found him incredibly cute. I also thought, his lips were so red, they looked very kissable. Before I even realized what I was doing, I had already given his lips a light peck, and the young man's cheeks flushed red as he widened his eyes. A moment later, he suddenly laughed to himself. When the event ended, Yan Xuanji eagerly pulled me to the parking lot. As soon as we got in the car, his lips pressed against mine. Close your eyes and sink, fall deep. The boy's kiss is scorching and without technique, yet it makes the heart race. Yan Xuanji, in this world, besides you, I have no one else I can trust. I lean in his embrace, listening to the powerful, rhythmic beating of his heart. I lied again. No, I don't even trust him. I'm just betting that what the bullet comment said is true, that he is sincere toward me. In the following period, Yan Xuanji sent various expensive gifts to my home every single day without fail. The Yan family's businesses are spread all over the world, and the rare Hermes bag my mother wanted could be air-shipped urgently that very afternoon. The French vineyard red wine my father liked could fill an entire cellar with what he sent. Even the businesses of the other uncles in the Shen family were taken care of, both openly and discreetly, receiving substantial financing. For a time, my family's status soared straight up. At family gatherings, everyone politely invited me to take the seat of honor. There are still 2 months until the new year. At the family dinner, my uncle eagerly poured me a glass of red wine and asked, Wan, I've recently taken a liking to a piece of land in the suburbs. It falls under Xuanji's jurisdiction. Could you put in a good word for me? My aunt immediately chimed in. Wan, we're family. If your uncle asks, she's sure to agree. Well, thank you in advance. No problem. But I have one condition. I paused for a moment, and everyone at the table put down their chopsticks, their eyes turning toward me. The air was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I want 50% of the group's equity. After all, everyone has seen what the Shen family has relied on to do business all this time. If you don't give it to me, I'll have Yan Xuanji withdraw his investment. Only what I hold in my hands is safe. Only that can truly guarantee my security. This is simply outrageous. Second uncle instantly flared up. A girl like you wanting so many shares, don't even think about it. Yet, unexpectedly, both mom and dad agreed. They gently and patiently served me food, smiling as they said, Wan is going to marry into the Yan family in the future. Even if we treat this as a dowry, it's not too much. After all, we only have Wan as our own daughter, and everything will be left to her in the end. Shen Yaoyao had been quite well behaved and obedient during this period. Upon hearing this, She simply lowered her head to eat, showing no unusual reaction, but I caught it. When she was drinking the soup, the corners of her mouth still couldn't help but curl upward. After the gathering ended, Shen Yaoyao found me and, under the pretense of letting bygones be bygones, said she wanted to invite me to celebrate the New Year together. Sister, there's a fireworks show at the New Year's Eve celebration by the river this year. It's especially beautiful. Let's go watch it together. Suddenly, I thought of what the bullet comments had said. Shen Yaoyao and Chu Tong would not let me off. They intended to ruin my face and take my innocence. It suddenly dawned on me that I hadn't heard any news about Chu Tong for a long time. On New Year's Eve, I saw Chu Tong, leaning on a crutch with a face full of gloom. Shen Tingwan, I truly underestimated you before. I never imagined you could be so malicious. Who is the malicious one, you or me? I stared at him, narrowing my eyes slightly. Chu Tong, we've known each other for so many years. Why did you betray me? If you wanted the power of the Shen family, I could have given it to you. Why did you choose to go to Shen Yaoyao? Even if I may have never truly loved the person before me from the very beginning, yet I still want an answer. Why is everyone's heart focused on Shen Yaoyao? My parents are, and so is Chu Tong. Yaoyao is pure and kind, not scheming like you. You keep saying your adoptive parents beat and scolded you, so you cut ties with them. But isn't it just that you're greedy for wealth and luxury? Ever since you returned to the Shen family, you've been desperately learning all those high society lessons, speaking and acting in a way that leaves no room for criticism. So hypocritical it's nauseating. Yaoyao isn't as slick and worldly as you are. She's much simpler than you. You're vain and full of lies. It's truly disgusting to see. Chu Tong looked at me with utter disgust. Suddenly, I let out a cold laugh. I actually quite envy Shen Yaoyao. She's lived in luxury since childhood, never having to endure any hardships. If I had such a good life, I'd probably be much more innocent than I am now. To all of you who say I'm scheming, I wish you could experience the life I once lived, growing up with foster parents who were alcoholics and drug addicts. Countless nights were spent being used as a punching bag for their anger, enduring their beatings and curses. Before I started boarding in middle school, there wasn't a single patch of unbruised skin on my body. It was Shen Yaoyao who owed me in the first place. I never blamed her before. I just wanted to return to my original life. But if you keep trying to stop me and push me step by step, then don't blame me for being ruthless. So, when Shen Yaoyao affectionately came to me and said there was a yellow house that was the perfect spot to watch the fireworks, I set myself as the bait and went in with her. But then I rushed to the second floor, jumped out the window, and completely sealed the door. As expected, this old house was damp and dark, filled with the smell of gasoline. It had been arranged long ago. I acted ruthlessly, leaving Shen Yaoyao not a shred of hope. When the fire completely engulfed that yellow house, I was so utterly terrified that I began screaming for help. In the end, I emerged step by step into the sight of the Shen family. The moment my parents saw me, they closed their eyes in despair. They knew I had won again, and this time, I had won completely. From this moment on, who holds the actual power in the Shen family will be self-evident. Dad, Mom, Xuanji is waiting for me over there, so I'll head over first. I finished with a smile, turned around, but there was not a trace of warmth in my eyes. I went to the place where I had agreed to meet Yan Xuanji and gave him a bright smile. Xuanji, have you been waiting long? Sorry, my stomach was hurting a bit earlier, so I got delayed at home. Before I could finish my words, suddenly, the bullet comments appeared again. Silly girl, do you think Yan Xuanji, that male fox, is stupid? Actually, he knows everything. You were able to accomplish all this so smoothly, and it's all thanks to his behind-the-scenes help. He even helped you intimidate the Shen family. At that moment, my heart almost leaped out of my chest. Yan Xuanji, I blurted out his name, just as a burst of fireworks bloomed in the sky, countless falling petals of light drowning out my voice. The young man held my hand, a slight smile curling at the corner of his lips. Look, the fireworks across the river are beautiful, of course. They still don't compare to you. That night, I leaned in his arms, watching the fireworks fill the sky together with him. The young man gently stroked my shoulder and suddenly spoke softly. Tingwan, you just need to be yourself. No matter what kind of person you are, I will always like you. You don't always have to be so afraid. You don't need to be perfect to earn others' affection. As long as you stand there, my heart will completely lean toward you. My breathing inexplicably grew erratic because of this. Yan Xuanji is the only son of the Yan family, doted on and cherished since childhood. His parents were deeply in love, and he had the most complete and happy childhood, growing up carefree all the way. But I was different. I struggled to survive from a young age, surrounded by suspicion and fear, before meeting him. I had never been loved, let alone understood how to love. Yan Xuanji, why would you like someone like me? I said quietly. If you like something, you should stick with it to the end. The Yan family motto is to follow one path all the way to the end. The young man's smile was bright and unrestrained. He lowered his eyes and gently kissed my forehead. Yet, I felt no joy of having survived a disaster. I clenched my chest tightly and closed my eyes with all my might. What the barrage said is all true, so, Yan Xuanji will die next spring to save me. It's the dead of winter now, which means there are less than 3 months left. After returning, I frantically asked the barrage, which day was it, and at what time? The barrage of comments also exploded with continuous scrolling. The novel didn't specify which day it was. I only know it was during the spring flood, and he was swept away by the waves while trying to save you, that day. You were wearing a sky blue dress, and you two went on a picnic. Woo woo, no matter what, my dear daughter, enjoy the last moments with Xuanji baby. He truly loves you so much. A sky blue dress, but I don't have one. I don't want to enjoy any last moments. If I want something, I'll seize it at all costs. I must have Yan Xuanji accompany me for a lifetime. Shen Yaoyao replaced my original fate. She was burned to the point of skin splitting and flesh tearing, and was rescued from the fire. But due to her blurred features, she was mistakenly identified by the person I had arranged. She nearly suffered humiliation. It was stopped by people I sent to destroy a woman. Since ancient times, many have favored the method of shaming her chastity. I find this vulgar and despicable to the extreme, and I disdain to ruin Shen Yaoyao in that way. When she lay in the hospital bed, covered in tubes, watching me support our parents as we walked in, my entire body was trembling uncontrollably. Sister, you must hold on. Although these are severe burns, we will do everything we can to save you and treat you. I wiped away my tears, with photographers and reporters clicking away behind me. Shen Yaoyao's tears kept streaming down her face. She wanted to call out for her mom and dad, but when she opened her mouth, all she could manage were hoarse, guttural sounds. But sister, the fireworks were all set off strictly according to regulations and procedures. How could you suddenly be the one to suffer? Could it be that someone actually plotted against you? My tone shifted abruptly, my voice suddenly turning sharp and piercing. I suddenly remembered that I saw Chu Tong that night. He threatened me with many words. Hiss, he hadn't shown his face for so long before that, and suddenly appeared there. Could it be that he was the one behind this? Why are you so afraid? Sister, do you know something? You two were so close. Tell me quickly, where is Chu Tong? Hurry up and tell me. My parents tried their best to hold back their emotions, but seeing their daughter, whom they had raised for so long, in such a state was truly heartbreaking for them. But I wanted them to witness this scene with their own eyes. Only then would they completely give up and step back with peace of mind. Because this is the consequence of opposing me. This time, my sister couldn't bear the mental pressure and genuinely fainted, and I faced the camera, my expression subtle and profound as I said, Chu Tong, don't you like Yao Yao? Seeing her harmed like this by you, can you still keep hiding? Come out and face reality, confess honestly, and truthfully admit everything you've done. I warn you, if you dare to harm anyone close to me again, I will personally kill you. Not long after, Chu Tong was found by the people I sent, and after evidence was collected by the legal team I hired, he was prosecuted according to the law. As the bullet comments suggested, Yan Xuanji still did not change his fate of dying because of me. Could it be that the one who wants to harm me is not him? As time passed day by day, my feelings for Yan Xuanji grew deeper and deeper, and I truly fell head over heels in love with him. We had breakfast together in the morning, took walks at dusk, and kissed under the night sky, doing all the sweetest things that ordinary couples do. But every night I would wake up from nightmares, drenched in cold sweat. Why must fate treat me this way? Am I truly unworthy of having someone I love and who loves me by my side? Until a large gift box arrived at my home. The moment I opened the packaging, my pupils suddenly contracted. It's a sky blue dress. A card lay quietly there. Little treasure. Wishing you an early happy birthday. I saw you secretly searching for a lot of browsing history about picnics on your phone, and I know you like this. Tomorrow, I'll drive you to go barbecue. There is still one day left until the 12th of March in the sunny spring, the day I was born, but after returning to the Shin family, no one ever celebrated my birthday on that day. What everyone remembered was the date my adoptive parents casually chose for me when they bought me. Just to register my household registration, I collapsed to the ground in a frenzy, crying and laughing uncontrollably. The person I loved had actually died on my birthday. I have never celebrated a birthday before, and it turns out that the first time I do, it is the anniversary of my lover's death. Suddenly, I realized who the person trying to harm me was. I hired two skilled swimmers, a man and a woman, to disguise themselves as me and Yen Xuanji, and took his car to the outskirts, as expected. Everything unfolded just as the bullet comments had predicted, proceeding in an orderly manner. The girl pretending to be me and Yen Xuanji drove all the way, with a low-key black van following behind. They arrived in the suburbs, barbecuing, camping, taking photos. Everything was so perfect, until Yen Xuanji was called away by a phone call. The girl noticed a shimmering fish by the river, which was particularly special and caught her attention. She had just walked to the riverbank and bent down to look, but a hand appeared behind her, pushing her violently into the water. The perpetrator was certain I couldn't swim, so after succeeding, they turned and ran without the slightest hesitation, and Yen Xuanji immediately rushed to the rescue upon hearing the cries for help. But for some reason, the current was exceptionally swift that day. If someone wasn't skilled in swimming or didn't take precautions in advance, they would likely have lost their life right there. I recorded everything and handed it all over to the police, along with the license plate number of that car. The ones who wanted to kill me were my own biological parents. I hired a private investigator at great expense to find out. In fact, when I was abducted by human traffickers, it was actually arranged by my own parents. They only claimed I was stolen to cover up the truth. In reality, the year I was born, my grandfather, who was obsessed with fortune-telling and had practiced it all his life, decided to cast a divination for me on a whim. When the divination signs appeared, his expression was one of unprecedented horror. He called his parents to the ancestral home and, after much hesitation, finally spoke. "This daughter of yours can bring prosperity to the Shin family. However, in the end, she will also take the lives of both of you." Just a few days after saying these words, he accidentally fell into the water while fishing in the early morning and died on the spot. My parents were even more convinced of this, firmly believing they must get rid of me. When Yen Xuanji and I appeared unscathed at the Shin family villa, my parents were just breathing a sigh of relief while paying respects to my grandfather in the morning hall. Oh dear, this farce is finally over. What a disgrace to the family. How could I have given birth to such a daughter? Mother covered her chest and shook her head repeatedly. Father also sighed and said, "It's fine, at least it's all over now. It's just a pity about Yao Yao. She was always so obedient and sensible, and we raised her with our own hands since she was little. Now she's lying in bed like that, completely out of her mind. Who knows when she'll get better." Mother chanted, "Amit Ba Buddha," and closed her eyes. After this incident, I've come to realize that things like face and reputation don't matter. What's important is that our family can stay safe and together from now on. Nothing else is worth worrying about. I stood at the door, listening quietly as tears streamed down my face without a sound. It's enough for a family to stay safe and together. Mom, Dad, do you know, this is also my lifelong wish. From the day I returned home, I have strained every cell in my body, striving to make every move impeccable. I do not do this to earn others' respect. I only hope that you will not abandon me again, yet your prejudice against me runs so deep. It turns out my very birth was a joke. I was pulled forcefully into a warm embrace. Yen Xuanji reached out and carefully wiped the tears from my face. Of course, being able to stay safe together is all that matters. Everything else is unimportant. He suddenly spoke without warning, and in the moment my parents turned around, they screamed and collapsed to the ground, as if seeing a ghost in broad daylight. "You're all very scared right now, aren't you?" I laughed, the sound so loud that tears streamed from my eyes. Indeed, facing a daughter you personally ordered to be pushed into the water, only to see her come back to life, anyone would be too terrified to make a sound. The sound of police sirens echoed in the villa courtyard. I took Yen Xuanji's hand, and together we turned and walked out. I don't want to stay in this home that disgusts me so much anymore. The spring breeze is just right, and I only share it with you. Extra. Yen Xuanji first met Shin Tingwan when he went with his friends to watch the commotion. They had heard that the Shin family's long-lost daughter had found her way back on her own. The Shin family, being so concerned with face, had a biological daughter raised by alcoholic, drug-addicted foster parents. It was bound to be quite a spectacle. Yan Xuanji was in just such a state of mind when he met the 17-year-old Shin Tingwan. The girl wore a simple, hand-woven cloth shirt, her hair dark and smooth, her eyes so bright they seemed to overflow with all the stars. Her fair face wore an expression of innocence that was almost too perfect. He glanced over casually, never expecting that from that moment on, he would be utterly captivated. This little girl looks so well behaved. It feels like returning to the Shin family would be a mistake. His brothers all sighed with emotion, only he chuckled softly and said, "No, I think she's not well behaved at all." Later, it turned out that Shin Tingwan was not well behaved at all. She was like a tireless perpetual motion machine, working hard at school during the day and meticulously studying the Shin family teachings at night. On weekends, she never went out to play but dutifully attended classes in flower arrangement, horseback riding, calligraphy, and painting. Soon, this girl who had grown up in the countryside became a model of behavior that even the daughters of prominent families couldn't match. Everyone felt that this girl was extraordinary, ambitious and full of ideas. Only Yan Xuanji felt that she harbored too much fear and apprehension inside. The 17-year-old girls he knew were all pampered and spoiled, each with a princess-like temper, acting quite arrogantly. Only Shin Tingwan was as docile and well-behaved as a little white rabbit, easily scolded and ordered around even by her adopted sister. He had someone thoroughly investigate the girl's background and only then learned how pitiful her past had been. Yan Xuanji meddled in someone else's business for the first time, arranging for her adoptive parents to be sent to prison and ensuring they were well taken care of. As clever as he was, he didn't know how to guide this girl out of her rigid and dogmatic ways. He ended up choosing the most clumsy method a boy could use, teasing the girl he liked. He always enjoyed provoking her, snatching the food in front of her at gatherings, deliberately wearing matching outfits, and then being narcissistic in front of her. Shen Tingwan always watched him expressionlessly, giving in to him. Only once, when she couldn't bear it any longer, she said, "Yan Xuanji, if you hate me so much, can you stay away from me? I'm not an eyesore, am I?" The girl turned and left after saying this, but he couldn't fall asleep until the early hours of the morning. From that day on, he secretly vowed to give Shin Tingwan whatever she wanted, to help her with whatever she wanted to do, because he seemed to have grown a little fond of this girl, and this fondness lasted a lifetime. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I transmigrated into the male lead of a Chasing After Husband novel. Before I could even finish absorbing the original host's memories, an excessively beautiful woman slapped me across the face. Just as I was about to retaliate, a few lines of bullet comments suddenly floated before my eyes. The female lead has started abusing the male lead. She'll regret this slap so much she'll go crazy in the future. Yeah. Waiting for the moment when the female lead finds out that her sworn brother's car accident was self-orchestrated, and she'll be kneeling and begging the male lead to slap her back. Actually, don't you think the male lead also has a problem? He clearly knows his sworn brother is framing him, yet he doesn't go look for evidence, just keeps denying it over and over. Looking at these comments, I just smiled. Regret can wait for later. I'll make her regret it right now. I don't hit women, but that doesn't mean I won't hit a bitch. You filthy bitch. How dare you lay a hand on me? I kicked the woman who had just slapped me right in front of me, sending her body crashing into the wall before she slowly slid down to the floor. Taking advantage of this moment, I sorted through my memories. I had transmigrated into a book, becoming the male lead of the urban, Chasing the Husband to the Crematorium novel. You're flirting with your sworn brother. Why are you crying when I ask for a divorce? Anjiaha, who was misunderstood by his wife, framed by her sworn brother, tortured physically and mentally, and after a profound awakening, asked for a divorce. His wife then suddenly realized her mistakes and began her journey to win him back. The beautiful woman in front of me, clutching her stomach in pain, was Lin Qingqian, my legally recognized wife, who is also the female lead in the novel. The story is currently only in the first chapter of the novel. Lin Qingqian's green tea, adopted younger brother, was hit by a car, and he insinuated that it was Anjiaha who sent someone to run him over. Without any evidence, Lin Qingqian believed his words, came back and slapped the original host, and even demanded that the original host go to the hospital to apologize to the green tea, adopted younger brother, Gu Cheng. The male lead was extremely angry about this and refused the female lead's request. Then the female lead stayed out all night, going to take care of her green tea younger brother for the entire evening. Damn, I transmigrated too early. If I had arrived just 2 seconds later, I wouldn't have had to take this slap. How dare you hit me? I'll break your hand. Even my own mother has never hit me like this. After reading this memory, several lines of text suddenly floated before my eyes, bold, black, and extremely eye-catching. What the hell is this? Why did the male lead kick the female lead? Shouldn't it be the male lead getting slapped by the female lead, and then the two start a cold war? Could it be that the author got criticized too much and secretly changed the plot? That must be it. I remember the last time I read it, the plot wasn't like this. The male lead never hit the female lead all the way to the ending. Bullet comments. I understand. Those are paragraph comments written by readers from another world. After I arrived in this world, the novel's plot was completely rewritten, and from now on, my life is in my own hands. That spineless male lead who gets beaten, bullied, gets into a car accident, and ends up in the ICU for emergency treatment has nothing to do with me. I stepped forward, looking down at the disheveled Lin Qingqian from above. You said I hired someone to hit Gu Cheng. Where's the evidence? Lin Qingqian's eyes blazed with fury. Anjiaha, how dare you hit me? You hit your own wife. You're not a real man. I smirked, spreading my hands. You threw the first punch. At most, this counts as a mutual fight. Besides, for someone who would attack her own husband over a pretty boy, calling you a bitch is already giving you too much credit. You call me a slut. Exactly. As a married woman, you're involved with another man. That's disloyalty. I've done favors for your Lin family. Yet you attack me here for some pretty boy. That's dishonorable. A disloyal and dishonorable person like you. What's wrong with calling you a slut, bitch, ch? As soon as the words were spoken, the barrage of comments in front of me grew even more intense. Damn, the male lead's mouth is so vicious. I remember that even by the end of the story, he never called the female lead a bitch. Upstairs. Please elaborate on the ending. Aren't stories of this type usually abandoned halfway through? What else could happen? The male lead forgave the female lead and ended up with both her and the second female lead, enjoying the blessings of having two women. Lin Qingqian raised her head, and in her gaze toward me, there was something more than just anger, astonishment, disbelief. After a brief moment of shock, Lin Qingqian grew even more furious, speaking with a tone of deep disappointment. Don't you know why I hit you? Just because I showed a little concern for Gu Cheng, you had someone run him over with a car. If I hadn't stopped Gu Cheng, he would have called the police and you'd be in jail. What would happen to me and our daughter then? Where's the evidence? I calmly retorted. Who else could it be but you? Yesterday you slandered Gu Cheng at the company for seducing me, and today he got hit by a car. If it wasn't you, then who was it? Lin Qingqian retorted sharply. Ha, I let out a light laugh. Stepped forward, grabbed Lin Qingqian's hair, and slapped her hard across the face. He who asserts must prove. Haven't you heard? Slap, another slap. If I have committed a crime, the law will naturally punish me. Do you need to meddle in this? Slap, another slap. Or is it that you're heartbroken because your little sweetheart got hurt, and you're finding an excuse to eagerly vent your anger for him? At this moment, the barrage exploded. WTF? How did the male lead turn into a domestic abuser? Is the author really not afraid of being cursed to death for writing this? No matter how wrong the female lead is, you can't just hit her. Doesn't anyone find this incredibly satisfying? Jean Fu, the whole crowd is cheering. Aren't you afraid the male lead will sue the female lead for domestic violence if he hits her like that? The person upstairs must be reading with King Crimson. The male lead just said that it's considered mutual combat between the two. No, the female lead is love-struck. She's only good to her sworn younger brother because of his parents' kindness. Her true love is still the male lead. After beating Lin Qingqian until she was bruised and swollen, and then stepping on her face, all the pent-up frustration in my heart was released, and I felt great. After feeling great, I immediately brought up the divorce. Lin Qingqian struggled to get up. Her current expression could be depicted as a pie chart: 30% humiliation, 30% disbelief, 30% anger, and 10% despair. You are not the Anjiaha I know. Anjiaha would never treat me like this. You are not the Lin Qingqian I know either. The Lin Qingqian I know would trust me unconditionally and would never cheat, I said in a flat tone. I didn't. How many times have I told you? I only see Gu Cheng as a younger brother. It's you who's being petty and refusing to believe me. That's why you hired someone to hit Gu Cheng with a car. Someone like you deserves to go to prison. Lin Qingqian defended herself loudly, but after just 3 sentences, the corner of her mouth hurt so much she couldn't continue. Then go ahead and call the police, as long as you can find the evidence. But before that, let's go get the divorce first. Back when your Lin family was about to go bankrupt, it was I who lent you 20 million to get through the crisis. At that time, 20 million could have bought about 20% of your Lin Corporation's shares. I'll give you a discount. Just convert the current 10% share value of the Lin Group into cash for me. As I spoke, my heart began to race with excitement. I'm rich. I'm rich. Is it finally my turn to become a billionaire? My little money, my dearest little money. The barrage of comments here started to pick up again. The plot has completely fallen apart. It turns out the male lead left with nothing, and now he's actually asking for money. I remember mentioning before that the Lin Group's market value is around 5 billion, so 10% of the shares would be about 500 million, right? What's 500 million? Later on, the female rival chasing the male lead is the heir to a trillion-dollar conglomerate. 3. Lin Qingqian stubbornly turned her head away. I won't divorce. If you want a divorce, you'll have to leave with nothing. The barrage continues. The female lead is being contradictory again. Leaving with nothing is just because she doesn't want to divorce the male lead. She still loves him. It's starting. The plot where they drag it out for over 100 chapters without successfully divorcing is about to begin. Bet 5 cents. They won't divorce without 100 chapters. Impossible. 10% of the assets is what I deserve. Dream on if you think I'll leave with nothing. If you don't agree, then prepare to be sued. 500 million. I'm not crazy enough to give it all up just to prove a point. However, seeing the barrage of comments still left me feeling a bit troubled. Lin Qingqian had feelings for the original owner, but that doesn't mean she didn't change her heart. It's not uncommon for someone to fall in love with 2 people at the same time. The most famous classic example is Li Xuanhuan. However, I definitely cannot accept such a situation. As the old saying goes, it's better to marry a reformed prostitute than a wife who has been unfaithful. If Lin Qingqian were truly loyal to the original owner, I might even consider taking on the responsibility. But with someone like Lin Qingqian, who wants everything without giving anything in return, I don't want to have the slightest connection with her. However, if it comes to a lawsuit, although Lin Qingqian and Gu Cheng have some ambiguous interactions, the novel is labeled as no infidelity, so there hasn't been any substantial act of betrayal between them. In the novel, the 2 divorced after the male lead was hit by a car arranged by Gu Cheng and was being resuscitated in the hospital, while the female lead was still concerned about her godbrother. Later, the female lead saw the male lead in a wheelchair at the courthouse and, seeing him half dead, finally agreed to the divorce. I am no masochist. In my previous life, I was diagnosed with ALS at a young age and could only wait for death in a wheelchair. Now that I finally have a healthy body in this life, I will not let anyone who tries to harm me get away with it. Suddenly, a brilliant idea flashed through my mind. My tone softened. Let's go. Take me to see Gu Cheng. Lin Qingqian's eyes were wary. Having just been severely beaten, she naturally didn't believe I would be so kind as to go apologize to Gu Cheng. You take me to find him. I want to confront him. Seeing Lin Qingqian hesitate, I immediately put on a stern face, reverting to the way I had been when I hit her. Fine. Lin Qingqian immediately compromised. The barrage was going wild at this moment. Damn, does anyone else think the female lead is so cheap? The male lead spoke to her nicely and she hesitated. But as soon as he put on a stern face, she agreed to everything. Indeed, it feels like the female leads in these chasing the husband stories are all spoiled by the male leads. If they had just given them a beating the first time they discovered any ambiguity, they probably would have behaved afterward. Jingfu Jingfu. The whole crowd cheers. Before going out, Lin Qingqian put on a bit of makeup to cover the bruises on her face. Lin Qingqian drove ahead, and I followed behind in my own car. In the passenger seat of her car, that dead green tea Gu Cheng had placed a decorative piece that read, "Exclusive for little brother." Just the fact that Lin Qingqian allowed it meant she didn't deserve forgiveness. Doesn't she know that her husband would be angry if he saw something like this? No, she knows. It's just that being loved makes one fearless, so she doesn't care about her husband's feelings. At the hospital, Gu Cheng lay on the sickbed, wrapped up like a zongzi. Seeing Lin Qingqian and me arrive, Gu Cheng suddenly let out a sharp hiss and cried out in pain. Lin Qingqian took a quick step and jogged over. I stuck out a foot, and Lin Qingqian, caught off guard, tripped and fell face first, landing flat on the ground. Legally, we are still husband and wife. Who gave her the nerve to care for another man right in front of me? And Jiaha, you actually tripped my sister on purpose. Gu Cheng let out a strange cry and shouted loudly. It's clearly her own fault for not watching where she was going, even though I did it on purpose. I just won't admit it. Lin Qingqian got up from the ground and gave me a resentful look, but this time she chose to stay where she was and didn't come any closer. See, what did I say? She's just a bitch, a cheap piece of trash who only learns to fear after getting hurt. TSK TSK TSK, look at you wrapped up like a dumpling. What driver was so blind not to just run over this green tea bitch? And Jiaha, did you come here on purpose to laugh at me? Don't get too cocky. If it weren't for my sister pleading for you, I would have already called the police. Gu Cheng looked at me with a face full of grief and indignation, as if I were the one who had wronged him. Then go ahead and try calling the police. I dare you. You said I hired someone to run you over and send you to the hospital, right? Then go ahead and call the police to have me locked up. Gu Cheng's face flushed red. And after a long while, he managed to choke out, you know perfectly well that you're my sister's husband, so I can't do anything to you, but you've gone too far. First trying to have me hit by a car, and now coming here to humiliate me. And Jiaha, have you lost your mind? Xiao Cheng has already let you off. What more do you want? Slap. Didn't your parents teach you not to interrupt when a man is speaking? Before Lin Qingqian could react, Gu Cheng began to shout angrily. And Jiaha, how dare you hit my sister right in front of me? I'm calling the police, and I will never let you get away with this. It turns out that when people are emotionally charged, they can unleash endless potential. Just look at Gu Cheng, who sat up from the bed despite his injuries. At this moment, the barrage of comments went wild. LOL, let me tell you a joke. Someone with multiple fractures sits up from bed to curse at people. Gu Cheng's injuries were not that serious at all. He only suffered minor wounds and bribed the doctor to wrap him up like a mummy. Unfortunately, the female lead trusted Gu Cheng too much. I wonder if she will be able to uncover Gu Cheng's issues this time. Hello, 911, I want to report a crime. A calm voice echoed in the hospital room. You're insane. Lin Qingqian rushed over anxiously, trying to snatch the phone. Slap, he became obedient again. Lin Qingqian covered her face and retreated to a more distant spot, saying, and Jiaha, what exactly do you want? Do you really want to go to jail? Spreading rumors about someone committing murder constitutes defamation. If the circumstances are serious, it may constitute the crime of defamation, according to Article 246 of the criminal law, publicly insulting others through violence or other means, or fabricating facts to defame others, if the circumstances are serious, shall be punishable by imprisonment for up to 3 years, criminal detention, surveillance, or deprivation of political rights. I'm a kind person and can't stand legal ignorance, so I kindly gave her a little lesson. Gu Cheng looked a bit anxious and said to Lin Qingqian, sister, I didn't do it. I sneered relentlessly. Idiot, what's the point of explaining to her? Go explain to the police. The barrage exploded again. Holy shit, the male lead actually called the police. The plot has completely collapsed. Gu Cheng's plan to stage a self-directed drama isn't too clever. The truth can be uncovered with just a little investigation. Could it be that the green tea brother is about to wrap up early? Is this the start of the chasing the husband to the crematorium plotline ahead of schedule? That depends on what the female lead does. The police arrived quickly, and I played the recording of my earlier conversation with Gu Cheng for them, hoping they would give me justice. Under the police questioning, Gu Cheng stammered and couldn't speak coherently, completely losing his composure. This was only natural. Only the person who framed you knows how wrongfully accused you are. He knew better than anyone what really happened with the car accident, from beginning to end. He merely wanted to use this matter to drive a wedge between Lin Qingqian and Jiaha's relationship. Unfortunately, he miscalculated one thing. I am not the original protagonist. The original protagonist was a weak-willed, spineless character created by the novel's author to pad the word count. But I am not. I am a normal person. And my first priority when dealing with matters is to cut through the mess quickly and decisively. I won't let such nonsensical, trivial matters affect my normal life. I have full confidence that the police will clear my name. Within a few days, the police discovered that Gu Cheng had made large transfers to the driver involved in the accident. Even his private dealings with the doctor and the falsification of his medical reports were uncovered. Kudos to the police in this other world. And Jiaha, can we talk? Early in the morning, Lin Qingqian came knocking at the door. After the police arrived at the hospital that day, Lin Qingqian and I finished giving our statements and then moved back to my parents' house. Since I've now taken over the original owner's life, his money is my money, his parents are my parents, his daughter is my daughter, and his wife, not even a dog would want her. Crash. As soon as she saw Lin Qingqian, my mom splashed a basin of water on her. I couldn't help but laugh from the side. Mom, for a lowlife like her, you could have just used the leftover water from washing vegetables. You even went out of your way to fetch a basin of clean water. What a waste. Mom rolled her eyes. It's all because of you, you little troublemaker. I gave an awkward smile and didn't argue back. The original host's parents truly doted on her. Otherwise, how could they have taken out all the demolition compensation money just because she knelt and begged, just to help Lin Qingqian through a difficult time? Such good parents are rare in this world. Lin Qingqian had water splashed all over her face, but she stood there without getting angry, keeping her demeanor very humble. Jiaha, are you satisfied now? If not, you can splash me again. I leaned against the doorway, not wanting the drenched Lin Qingqian to come in and dirty my floor. If you have something to say, just say it, but I think aside from divorce, we have nothing to discuss. Could you please let Gu Cheng go? His parents have been kind to me, let him go this time. And I promise to cut off all ties with him in the future. We'll never have any contact again. All right. As soon as Lin Qingqian spoke, the barrage erupted with a wave of criticism. The female lead is still pleading for her sworn brother. How pathetic. The male lead shouldn't agree to it. A villain like Gu Cheng deserves to be sent to prison. I really want to give this disgusting female lead a beating. And as for never interacting again, even a dog wouldn't believe that. Sure. You agree to the divorce and leave with nothing, and I'll spare Gu Cheng's life. Who wants a dirty woman like you? I want the money. I thought to myself silently. I knew she would agree. In the early stages of a husband-chasing novel, the male homewrecker is an invincible presence. Even if the male lead were killed, the female lead would slap him twice to make his corpse get up and apologize to her. Besides, I also learned from the original host's memories why Lin Qingqian was so good to Gu Cheng. When she was a child, Lin Qingqian was kidnapped by human traffickers. During their escape, the traffickers abandoned her, because she was too young to remember where her home was or her parents' names. Lin Qingqian was sent to an orphanage. Later, she was adopted by Gu Cheng's parents, who treated Lin Qingqian very well. After living at Gu Cheng's house for a few years, Lin Qingqian was found and taken back by her own parents. They looked down on Gu Cheng's parents for being too poor and feared they would become a burden, so they left a sum of money and took Lin Qingqian away. It wasn't until later, when Gu Cheng graduated from university and was hired by the Lin Group, that Lin Qingqian discovered Gu Cheng was the child of her foster parents. From him, she learned of their passing and felt deep regret for not being able to see them one last time. To make up for her guilt, she recognized Gu Cheng as her godbrother and granted his every request. It was precisely because of Lin Qingqian's favoritism that Gu Cheng had the audacity to provoke the original host again and again. But Lin Qingqian forgot one thing. Her guilt shouldn't involve the original host in making amends, let alone the current me. Jiaha, don't speak in anger. If we get divorced, what will happen to our daughter? When you were cheating, why didn't you think about the fact that you still have a daughter? I hate it the most when people use their children as an excuse to make amends after making a mistake. Lin Qingqian couldn't help but raise her voice in defense. I told you I didn't cheat. I only see him as a younger brother. Cheating isn't just about sleeping with someone else. As a married woman, being ambiguous with another man also counts. Enough. Don't give me all this nonsense. Either find a lawyer today to start the divorce proceedings, or wait for your little lover to go to jail. Watching Lin Qingqian's hesitant expression, I curled my lip in disdain. When you asked me to be considerate of Gu Cheng before, I didn't see you hesitate. Now that you have to pay out of your own pocket, you can't stand it. Sure enough, some people are only generous with others' resources. Indeed, without money, even your sworn brother might not want you anymore. At this moment, the barrage of comments started to increase again. If the male lead can speak, he should speak more. It sounds good, and I love hearing it. That makes sense. It really does. when the female lead was being ambiguous with her sworn brother before, she always told the male lead not to overthink it. This time, she hesitated to give up everything to save her sworn brother. Must be hurting now. If she leaves with nothing, the male lead could probably get $1 billion, right? $1 billion. A whole billion, enough to spend for a lifetime. Fine, I'll leave. Lin Qingqian's face turned pale and then flushed. Before she finally spoke, I felt it was a pity for the original host. The female lead can neglect the male lead over a misunderstanding, but it takes repeated disappointments to completely give up on her sworn brother. Now, she's even willing to leave with nothing for his sake. And just like that, by the end, the male lead still forgave the female lead. That's just how it goes in novels. In reality, the original owner would have been killed off, and the female lead would have flown off into the sunset with her sworn brother, living happily ever after. To get Gu Cheng out as soon as possible, the divorce proceedings were handled quickly. The speed at which the wealthy operate is truly beyond what ordinary people can imagine. Looking at the huge sum of money that had just arrived in my bank account, along with the 20% stake in the Lin Group that Lin Qingqian had transferred to me, the moment I got the shares, I immediately went to find Lin Qingqian's second uncle. The Lin family business was a family-run enterprise. Old Mr. Lin favored his younger son, so the Lin Group was initially managed by Lin Qingqian's second uncle, following the typical novel trope. His second uncle was a good-for-nothing who had turned the Lin Group into a complete mess. The old man quickly had his eldest son, that is, Lin Qingqian's father, take the blame. Lin's father was also a man of little ability, which led to the original owner investing 20 million to help Lin Qingqian save the group. After Lin Qingqian successfully saved the company, her second uncle had been thinking about seizing power again. Unfortunately, after Lin Qingqian took control, she gathered 20% of the shares herself, and Lin's father still held 20%, which was more than what the old man and her second uncle combined had, leaving them with no choice but to watch helplessly. Now, with my 20% of the shares, her second uncle would suddenly become the person with the most shares in the Lin Group. As for whether Lin Qingqian's second uncle would cause the Lin Group to go bankrupt again in the future, what does that have to do with me? What's with the chasing after a man and ending up in a crematorium? What's with the deep, painful love, and the battlefield of emotions? Don't even come near me. I've got money and looks. What kind of girl can't I find? It's not like all the women in the world are dead. Why insist on hanging yourself on the heroine's tree? Second uncle is a practical man. As soon as he heard I wanted to sell my shares, he went from all his previous disapproval to being as close as brothers in an instant. The two of them cursed Lin Qingqian together, feeling as though they had met too late in life. The barrage was practically laughing their heads off at this point. Did the male lead really sell his shares to his second uncle? This is about to drive the female lead's family to utter ruin. If her parents find out, they'll probably be even more devastated than she is. Who says it's not true? Mrs. Lin endured a lifetime of grievances in the Lin family. Finally managed to turn things around and take charge, only to fall back to square one in an instant. Serves her right. The male lead helped the Lin family through tough times, and as soon as things started looking up, Mrs. Lin turned her back on him. Gratitude can turn into enmity. How many examples of that are there? The male lead truly doesn't care about Lin Qingqian anymore. After receiving the money, I now have a total of 1.5 billion scattered here and there. This immense fortune has finally come my way, but this is what I deserve, not to mention the 20 million I invested initially. Just the fact that Lin Qingqian and I didn't sign a prenuptial agreement means half of her assets are rightfully mine. Plus, with her infidelity, I should naturally take the lion's share. As agreed, I signed a letter of understanding for Gu Cheng, with Lin Qingqian pulling some strings. Gu Cheng was released, after getting the money. I immediately bought a villa and hired 2 bodyguards. First, let's talk about the villa, a top-tier luxury mansion, on the same level as Lin Qingqian's home, where you can't even get in without an appointment. As for the bodyguards, in the original story, after the divorce, the male lead's parents were constantly harassed by Lin Qingqian, leaving them utterly exhausted. With bodyguards in place, there's no longer any need to worry about my parents being harassed by that scumbag woman. As I expected, as soon as second uncle got his hands on the shares, he couldn't wait to kick Lin Qingqian out of the CEO position. When Lin's mother found out, she was furious and came to settle the score. And Jiahe, you little bastard, I can't be bothered to listen, and you're not worthy of speaking. Beat her up. As soon as Mother Lin stepped into the room with her left foot, the bodyguards swarmed in, gave her a thorough beating, and then threw her out. As for calling the police, it's laughable. My bodyguards acted to protect me, their boss, not to mention Mother Lin came looking for trouble, like mother, like daughter, I suppose. I specifically waited at the old house to give Mother Lin a beating, and afterward, she backed down completely, not daring to show up again. After everything was over, I wandered the world with my little backpack. The helplessness of being confined to a wheelchair in my past life made me especially eager to see the world. The world is so vast. I want to go and see it. Majestic mountains and rivers, beautiful beaches, brilliant auroras. Where could be more interesting than the ridiculous plot of the original story? During this time, I also met many like-minded beauties, and we crossed paths on the journey. Some warmed each other under the snow-capped mountains, some applied sunscreen for each other on the beach, and some fought side by side in the mountain forests. After brief encounters, we parted ways again on the journey. And our meetings felt like beautiful dreams. The style of the bullet comments gradually changed as well. Isn't this a story about chasing after a husband? Why did it turn into a travelogue later on? I'm so envious of the male lead. I also want to have a romantic encounter with a beautiful girl. Only the wealthy can have romantic encounters while traveling. The poor can just enjoy the scenery. Damn it, upstairs. Don't expose the harsh reality. I also want to take a spontaneous trip. The boss is overjoyed, saving on one more compensation payment. The crematorium is probably out of the picture. This fun lasted for over a year. A year later, I went home to spend the new year with my parents. I heard from my parents that Lin Qingqian had come to visit many times. Unfortunately, she was stopped outside the residential area every time. I heard that not long ago, the Lin group went bankrupt due to internal conflicts and a broken capital chain. Speak of the devil. And he shall appear. Shortly after, the door of the villa was knocked. Upon opening the door, standing outside were Lin Qingqian and his daughter, an Xian. Her face was somewhat pale, and her eyes had changed a lot, fatigue, emptiness, and a hint of something indescribable. The clothes on my body have also changed from haute couture to mass-market attire. How did you get in? I was somewhat surprised. Did I pay 1,000,000 yuan in property fees for nothing? Son, it's the new year. Just let them in. Mom came out to smooth things over, smiling awkwardly. It suddenly dawned on me that Mom must have missed her granddaughter, so she asked the guard to let them in. Dad, Anshin called out obediently. I picked up Anshin and turned sideways to let her in. Did you miss Daddy? I touched my nose to Anshin's nose. To be honest, I quite like children, but only to the extent of enjoying a quick cuddle. As for Anshin, the daughter of the original owner and Lin Qingqian, I'm not willing to go through the trouble of fighting Lin Qingqian for custody. I will ensure she has food and clothing without worry, and when it's time for her to marry, I will prepare a generous dowry so she can marry with dignity. Nothing more than that. Lin Qingqian didn't sit, she just stood in the living room, looking at me. The Lin family is finished. Serves them right. The Lin family should have been finished long ago. Lin Qingqian naturally understood what I meant. If it weren't for me, the Lin family would have gone completely bankrupt years ago. Bullet comments, so satisfying. The male lead said it perfectly. What a heartless and ungrateful bunch. Second uncle is quite the talent. It took the female lead and male lead several years to revive the Lin family business, and he managed to ruin it in just 1 year. The female lead's father is also quite the talent. Knowing the Lin family business was failing, instead of thinking about cutting his losses early, he insisted on pouring more money into it and fighting to the bitter end. Now the female lead has been reduced to working outside, and she must be filled with regret. Serves her right. That's exactly what a scumbag woman deserves. Lin Qingqian suddenly said, Gu Cheng is dead. I responded indifferently, well, that's truly heaven having eyes. Damn, when did he die? Did I miss something? 30 chapters ago, the male lead encountered a truck driver who delivered rotten fruit, and the customer refused to pay, knowing the driver's wife had run away and that he needed money to save his daughter who was suffering from leukemia. The male protagonist helped pay the medical expenses, promised to cover the subsequent treatment costs, and even took the driver to a foot spa for an imperial bath. He then mentioned to the driver that he had been cheated on and showed him a photo of Gu Cheng. Damn, isn't this like raising death warriors in ancient times? You get treated to good food and drinks, and your family is taken care of in every way. If you have any sense of shame, tell him you've been bullied. He'll have to step up whether he wants to or not. The male lead is so bad. I love it. Lin Qingqian pursed her lips, her expression somewhat humble. Then I interrupted her. There is no us, only you and me. After the divorce, you are you, and I am me. What about our daughter? Do you want her to grow up in a single-parent family from a young age? I looked at Anshin with a serious expression. Sweetheart, tell daddy, do you want to stay with daddy or mommy? Anshin's eyes flickered a little as she glanced at Lin Qingqian and then at me. Can't I have both? My heart trembled for a moment. In this world, when parents divorce, the children suffer the most. Yet it is the children who end up bearing the consequences of their parents' mistakes. However, I quickly calmed the slight tremor in my heart and spoke gently. Your mother made an unforgivable mistake, so your father couldn't continue living with her. I know that the mistakes of adults shouldn't be your burden, but reality is what it is. You have to make a choice. The bullet comments floated by. That makes sense. When adults make mistakes, children often suffer the most. The male lead is too heartless. Not seeing the child for over a year, seeing Anshin's expression, my heart is almost breaking. Since the female lead didn't actually cheat, maybe the male lead should forgive her and give the child a complete family. Upstairs, I'd like to get to know your wife. Lin Qingqian was the first to break down emotionally at this moment. And Jiahe, tell me clearly, what unforgivable mistake have I made? I first asked my mother to take an Xin to the room. Then looked at her with calm eyes. Lin Qingqian, are you sure? You always say you treat Gu Cheng well to repay his parents, but when it comes to favors, I have done far more for you. Yet how did you treat me? When your Lin family was on the verge of bankruptcy, I helped you with everything I had, only to be accused by your parents of taking advantage of your situation. And what were you doing then? You didn't even speak up for me. But every time I accused Gu Cheng of having ulterior motives, you defended him without fail. You were even willing to leave with nothing for Gu Cheng's sake. Yet you slapped me in the face over his baseless accusations. Are you sure that at the moment you took action against me, your feelings for Gu Cheng were purely driven by gratitude? If that's truly the case, your way of judging gratitude is quite unique. Bullet comments. The male lead really hits the nail on the head with his words. It's the same kind of favor, so why the double standard? What else could it be? Some people treat marriage as a favor to their spouse, thinking the other person should obey them in every way. Exactly. They act like a pushover outside, but at home, they act like the queen mother. Aren't brother fixers, and mama's boys, all like that, shifting all of one's responsibilities onto their spouse. After a short while, Anshin followed her mother out. I don't know how mom persuaded Anshin, but the first thing she said when she saw me was, Dad, I want to go with you. Okay, I patted Anshin's head, unable to hide the joy in my eyes. I also have my own motives for wanting custody of Anshin. The year-long journey not only failed to settle my heart but also helped me find my purpose in life. Either travel or read. Either the soul or the body must be on the road. Bringing Anshin back will spare me from my parents' constant pressure to get married and also alleviate the loneliness for both of them. With enough money to hire a nanny, taking care of the child won't require much effort from the two elderly. Moreover, after the Lin family went bankrupt, even if we had to fight for custody in court, we could just leave it to the lawyers. There wouldn't be any of the messy disputes that would have happened if we had gone to court a year ago. Lin Qingqian was furious. An Xin, what are you talking about? Hasn't mom been good to you? An Xin nodded, then shook her head. Mom, you've been very good to me, but grandpa and grandma don't like me. When you weren't around, she kept calling me a worthless burden, saying dad left because I'm not a boy. But she lied, daddy didn't abandon me. Lin Qingqian felt as if struck by lightning. Why didn't you ever tell me? I did tell you, but you said grandma was just in a bad mood and not to take it to heart. Bullet comments. What a sensible child. The male lead should find a stepmother for his daughter. I support the male lead and the second female lead being together. She is beautiful and kind-hearted, and will raise Anshin as her own daughter. I calmly withdrew my gaze, having seen enough of the bullet comments. I knew that the second female lead they were talking about was a junior from my university, who regarded me as her white moonlight. Her family background is exceptionally good. However, I have no intention of contacting the other party. During the year of travel, they reached out to me several times, but I refused each time, leaving aside the fact that the other party liked the original owner. Just my free-spirited and unrestrained personality alone makes me unsuitable for being tied to a single crooked tree. Moreover, compared to a stepmother, I trust the child's grandparents more, most importantly, a wealthy and beautiful young lady like her, who in the story's ending could accept the original owner having a harem, doesn't seem like a normal person's way of thinking at all. Instead, it feels like a pseudo-character created by the author's wishful thinking. Lin Qingqian still wanted to say something, but I couldn't be bothered to listen and directly had the bodyguards escort her out. After spending the new year with my parents and children, I set off on my journey again. Time passed quickly. 1 year, 2 years, 10 years. I lived well, very well indeed. Back then, with over $1 billion in the bank, the annual interest alone amounted to tens of millions. Plus, having absorbed the original owner's memories, I had a keen eye for investments. I invested in several projects, and the money multiplied several times over. No need to worry about making a living, completely free and at ease. Is this how humans live? This is how immortals live. Occasionally, bullet comments drift by. I don't envy Mandarin ducks or immortals. I only envy Boss N every single day. A golden retriever. Huh? Is Boss N's romantic escapades finally extending their claws to foreign friends? This is the kind of crematorium scene I want to see. Once you enter the crematorium, don't come out and cause a stir. Let's each go our own way in peace. Around the age of 40, I suddenly felt the urge to settle down again. I opened a coffee shop, where I would often brew a cup of coffee and pick up a book. Perhaps one day, when I've rested enough, I'll set off on a new journey again. The clean, bright cafe was filled with the sound of melodious music. Time is a one-way journey, where both the good and the bad are part of the scenery. Later on, I saw Lin Qingqian a few times, but I never spoke another word to her. Each time, I would roll up the car window and leave without looking back. In my view, once something is missed, it's missed. Once something is lost, it's lost. Even if I were the original, I would not look back. Lin Qingqian's existence is like a scene from the past, but the best scenery is always in the future. Extra Chapter 1, Lin Qingqian's chapter. The day Jiahe threw her out of the villa. On New Year's Eve, snow began to fall from the sky, turning the whole world into a vast expanse of white. As beautiful as a scene from the movie Love Letter, but I had no mind to appreciate the snow-white world around me. I tightly wrapped myself in my 800 yuan down jacket, as if that could make me feel a little warmer. Back at the entrance of my apartment complex, warm lights were glowing in every household. Today is a day for family reunions. Back at the doorstep, I inserted the key into the lock, and with a click, the door swung open. After entering, there was no steaming hot meal, no family concern. My mother, who had been waiting for a long time, glanced eagerly behind me. Upon noticing that Jiahe was not there, she stiffened her neck and asked, "Where's Jiahe? Didn't he come back with you?" "No." "What about Xian? You didn't bring her back either." "No, you useless thing. It's all because of your flirtatious ways." My mother began an endless stream of curses. When she finally tired herself out from scolding, I retorted coldly, "Didn't you look down on Jiahe back then? You said it would be better for me to marry Gu Cheng than to marry Jiahe. If it weren't for you always bad-mouthing him in front of me, saying he wasn't good enough for me, we wouldn't have ended up like this. Today, I even heard from Xian that while I was away, you called her a worthless burden. Is that any way for a grandmother to act?" Such conversations have been repeating daily in this 100-square-meter apartment ever since the Lin family officially declared bankruptcy a month ago. A 100-square-meter commercial apartment, which might be the result of a lifetime of hard work for ordinary people, felt like falling from heaven to hell for Mother Lin, who had moved out of a villa. The immense sense of disparity brought her emotions close to the brink of collapse every day. She vented her dissatisfaction by cursing me and Jiahe, my father, Gu Cheng, and everyone she believed was at fault. From initially defending myself, to enduring it, and now to arguing, I chose to use the same method as my mother, accusing her of being the one who destroyed my 10-year relationship with Jiahe. I did this to make her shut up, and at the same time, to deceive myself into believing that my failed marriage was not my own fault, but the fault of my parents and Gu Cheng, and my father. My gaze turned to the study, where the door was tightly shut. He was probably wearing earplugs inside, trying to find some peace and quiet. After the argument ended, my mother changed her expression again, speaking softly as she tried to persuade me. "Qianqian, why don't you try again tomorrow? After all, you didn't cheat on him, and you even gave Jiahe a daughter. Besides, even if he doesn't want to remarry, he should at least return some of the property to you. Nowadays, even if someone really cheats, There's no such thing as leaving with nothing. I was growing impatient with her words, so I ran into my room, locked the door, and didn't want to hear my mother's same old talk anymore. She called out a few times at the door, and when I didn't respond, she started cursing again. Perhaps she was tired from cursing, so she rested for a while before shifting the battle to my father, banging on the study door, in the pitch-black room. I hugged my knees with both hands, and two clear tears streamed down my face. I regretted it, regretting agreeing to his demand to leave with nothing, just so Njiaha would let Gu Cheng go, regretting slapping him because I listened to Gu Cheng's instigation, completely shattering our relationship, regretting thinking that Njiaha couldn't do without me, repeatedly siding with Gu Cheng and keeping him by my side, which hurt the relationship between Njiaha and me, regretting believing that as long as I didn't physically cheat, I could have both a good younger brother who provided emotional value and a husband who took care of everything in my life. I regret forgetting the days when Njiaha and I worked together to save the Lin family, seeking investments and clients everywhere, relying on each other. I have far too many regrets, so many that I can't even begin to count them. If I had another chance, I would never divorce Njiaha, nor would I believe Gu Cheng's one-sided story and slap Njiaha. I would first investigate, and after discovering Gu Cheng's true nature, I would decisively cut all ties with him. But there's no such thing as a pill for regret in this world. Njiaha, you're overthinking it. At most, you'll avoid a beating if you don't act. But if you don't divorce, you're just dreaming. Extra Chapter 2, The Story of Njiaha, at 41. I set out on a journey once again. This time, I chose to return to the first stop of my decade-long journey, Dali, setting out anew. That year, I met a girl named Yang Si here, who was pure and beautiful. I almost broke my Dao heart for her, wanting to spend my whole life with her. Unfortunately, in the end, I still became a deserter. I wonder how Yang Si has been after all these 12 years. I found a homestay's phone number on my phone and called to inquire about the hotel's facilities. 5 seconds later, I heard a voice that had appeared countless times in my dreams. She said to me in a very gentle tone, "Hello, one inn, one city, waiting for one person for a lifetime. Dolly, I'm waiting for you at the Wind, Flower, Snow, and Moon Inn. Welcome to inquire. One inn, one city, waiting for one person for a lifetime." My eyes instantly blurred with tears. In this moment, I seemed to glimpse her 26-year-old self through the city's romantic charm. Perhaps I, at 40-something, should settle down, or perhaps my journey should have one more constant companion. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my